Welcome to Carter BloodCare's Component Processing Laboratory. I am DeCarlos Gomez, the Assistant Manager of this laboratory, and I'm here today to review our departmental successes with WorkSmart. WorkSmart is Carter BloodCare's umbrella term for our Lean Six Sigma and Process Improvement Initiative. Now, WorkSmart uses a very systematic TMAC process: define, measure, analyze, improve, and control to eliminate non-value added steps or waste in work processes. Our WorkSmart team, which consisted of departmental staff and Lean Six Sigma experts, completely redesigned our process flow and layout, which nearly doubled our daily capacity. Prior to WorkSmart, our processes were very linear. Like other component processing laboratories across the country, we worked with large batch sizes of units and processed these units in an assembly line format. In fact, our staff would often be waiting around for units of whole blood to come back from our blood drives for processing. Prior to WorkSmart, we believed that it was best for our couriers to make multiple blood pickups and bring back the blood in large quantities to our laboratory for processing. The batch size was huge and resulted in a lot of WIP, or work in process. And the units of blood would pile up and wait for the next process or steps. WorkSmart helped us realize that waiting, whether it was people waiting for work or units waiting for processing, is not efficient and bottlenecks the process. Lean principles are built on the fact that single-piece flow is more efficient than batch processing. In component processing, we tried to get as close to a single-piece flow as possible. Since our centrifuges are set up to spin 6 units, this became our batch size. We also identified that we had a lot of transportation waste. In other words, we were walking or transporting units all over the laboratory because equipment was not located where the work occurred. The team analyzed transportation waste and recommended a new layout for the workflow, which ultimately resulted in a 66% decrease in transportation. The WorkSmart team ultimately designed a pod system or work cell for our component processing. Let's take a look at how the systems operate. A batch of 6 units enters the pod and is spun in the centrifuge. The units are removed from the centrifuge and platelet-rich plasma is removed. Platelet-rich plasma is further spun in the second centrifuge and ultimately separated into a unit of platelets and plasma. Now, there are refrigerators located conveniently by each pod so that the units can be immediately stored. And we can process 36 units per hour in each pod. In our 4 pods, we are able to process 144 units per hour, or 1,152 units in an 8-hour shift. So prior to WorkSmart, we could only process 700 units in an 8-hour shift. With this extra capacity, we were able to move staff from our 3rd shift to a more desirable 1st shift hours and have increased our cryo production, yielding additional revenue for Carter BloodCare. Our most important success has been with the staff. The morale of our department has increased because staff have been empowered to change their work processes and are excited about the success of what the team has been able to accomplish.
Welcome to Carter BloodCare Mobile Staging Department. My name is Carla Buckendorf, and I am the manager of mobile staging. I am here today to tell you about all the great things we have accomplished in this department through our WorkSmart initiatives. First, let me tell you what we do in this department. Mobile staging is responsible for preparing all of the supplies and equipment for our mobile collection staff. We support mobile collections by preparing all of their supplies, cleaning the mobile coaches, and maintaining all of the mobile equipment. One of our main duties is to build mobile collection kits. These kits contain all of the supplies necessary to host a blood drive, from blood bags, tubes, gauze, and Band-Aids. Our WorkSmart initiative focused mainly on our kit making process. Prior to WorkSmart, it took us an average of 16 minutes to build 1 kit for a mobile collections drive. We realized through WorkSmart that we had a lot of waste or non-value added steps in our process. We did not realize how much walking and transporting we were doing until we mapped out the process. In fact, through the WorkSmart process, we determined that a new layout improved process efficiencies. We streamlined the process, and now we can build a kit systematic fashion. We think of ourselves much like a grocery store now. We can take an empty case, like an empty grocery cart, and we fill in supplies, so by the time that we get to the end of the aisle, the case is completely full. We lay out the department to help us build the kits in a user-friendly and systematic fashion. Also, we use the conveyor belts to help move the kits from one section to the next section. This has reduced transportation waste and simplify our process. Ultimately, we were able to reduce our kit making process from 16 minutes per kit down to 8 minutes per kit. To put this in perspective, on an average, we build 1,825 kits per month. Prior to WorkSmarts, it would have taken us 29,200 minutes or 487 hours to build this many kits. Because of WorkSmarts, we were able to build the same number of kits in half the time. This additional time has allowed us to reduce departmental overtime, reduce errors, and take on new projects. Mobile staging has embraced visual control, and we use them in many different places to help staff do their jobs better. Some examples include labeling. All of our shelves and storage areas are clearly labeled. We color code our mobile kits in the following colors. Red tag cases contain personal protective equipment, PPE, and cleaning products. Yellow tag cases contain prep supply, and blue tag cases contain supplies with lot number and temperature controlled items. We also use a 6-foot high mark to visually illustrate the maximum height a dolly can be stacked. For our vehicles, if they are fueled, washed, and ready to go, the vehicle is backed into the parking spot. If the vehicle has been used, it will be parked facing forward into the parking spot. These visual controls help staff do their job better and promote standardization among staff. As the manager of this department, the most important change I have seen from WorkSmarts improved staff morale and engagement. Our WorkSmart team consists of departmental staff from all 3 shifts with no supervisors on the team. This has allowed the staff who actually do the work to recommend the changes. This has greatly improved how staff feel about their jobs. Prior to WorkSmart, we had departmental turnover of more than 28%. After WorkSmart, we had reduced the turnover and even had staff who left the department asking to return. Staff also are more engaged and never stop thinking of ideas and suggestions. I am truly proud of the WorkSmart success in mobile staging.
Hi, I'm Adam Martinez. I've enjoyed being on the WorkSmart team. It's given me and my coworkers the opportunity to redesign our workflow. I'm happier and I feel like an important member of the team.
Hi, my name is Daniel. I wasn't sure what WorkSmart was at first and didn't think it would make any difference. I thought we were already efficient at our jobs around here, and now I realize even though we were doing a good job, we can always do better. And I like that management listened to the staff's suggestions in changing in our work area for the better.
Hi, my name is Justin Grimsinger, and I'm excited to show you how WorkSmart has changed our process flow at our donor centers. One of our main goals for the Donor Center WorkSmart project was to standardize our layout and improve donor flow. We have over 20 neighborhood donor centers, and prior to WorkSmart, each donor center was set up differently with no standardized workflow. We wanted to be able to reduce donor wait time, understand our true capacity, and set up each donor center to be efficient and have unidirectional flow. Here's an example diagram prior to WorkSmart of the donor center we are in now. We collect both whole blood and apheresis in our donor centers. You can see by these diagrams how inefficient our processes were. After analyzing our donor flow, capacity, and workflow, we determined there was a better way to set up our donor centers. We now have a pod system or work cell. Each donor pod consists of 3 donor beds with 2 apheresis machines. This gives us the maximum flexibility in each pod and allows us to optimally collect each donor. We knew that 60% of our collections at donor centers were whole blood collections, but now our current goal is to increase our automated collections. This pod setup allows us to increase our apheresis collections without jeopardizing whole blood collections. Each pod is staffed with 1 phlebotomist for 3 beds. In addition, each donor pod is associated with 1 screening booth. That allows us to control the donor flow into the drawing pod. For example, 1 phlebotomist would not be able to manage 3 donor beds, 2 of which are apheresis donors, if the donor flow was not controlled. We used the interview booth to help control donor flow. We know that it takes an average of 15 minutes for a donor interview and mini physical. That means that donors will not enter the donor pod any faster than every 15 minutes. This allows the donors to be properly spaced to ensure the phlebotomist can properly handle each donor. In addition, we have multiple pods at each donor center, and by controlling which interview booth the donor enters, allows us to further control donor flow into the donor pods. The receptionist is responsible for controlling the flow of the donors into the interview booths and tries to space donors evenly between all pods. The pod system also allows for the maximum flexibility at all of our donor centers. On a daily basis, we open only the number of pods necessary to accommodate the donor schedule. This allows us to appropriately staff our donor centers each day. We can also use one of the pods for staff training, which allows new staff the opportunity to gain experience. We have center work islands for the additional tasks that need to be performed, such as platelet counts on the hematology instrument, paperwork, and preparing whole blood units for transport. Prior to WorkSmart, we had our staff performing phlebotomy and all of these other tasks. What we realize is that whenever a phlebotomist is performing these additional tasks, he or she is not with the donor. We now staff specific individuals at the center islands to perform these tasks. This allows the phlebotomist to remain in the donor pod caring for our donors. WorkSmart has allowed us to standardize the setup at our donor centers. We reduced the waste time in our process and have eliminated variability between donor centers. Most important, we now are better able to control donor flow and have ultimately reduced donor wait time. To donor center staff, WorkSmart is a huge success.